An almighty classic returns.
I cannot believe it, but alas, here we are, Actraiser Renaissance. This game got released the day of its announcement, and I bought it as soon as it dropped. See, this game was an absolute huge deal to me, because this and Super Mario World were the first games I've ever played on the SNES. This game is the absolute core of my childhood, and I just had to do a video on it. And seeing the remake roughly 30 years since the game's release, it's still insane to comprehend, and I'm sure me and the 300 other fans was as hype as I was. So for those who aren't old nostalgic farts like myself, Actraiser is a hybrid platformer city sim builder developed by Quintet and published by Enix. These were times before Square and Enix were merged into one company. And yet now, we've come full circle with Square Enix being behind Renaissance. In this game, like the original, you control God, or in this case, the Master. Satan, Tanzra, has taken over the lands in the midst of the Master's absence after defeating him, forcing him to retreat back to his aerial palace, and it's he and his angels' job to gain strength through the mortal realm's prayers, and liberate the continents of Tanzra and his 6 enemies. Anyone who's played the original title should be familiar with a lot of the same beats Renaissance had us. But of course, there are several new modern spins to give you more to do and quell any of the issues you might have probably had with the original, for better or for worse. But let's dive in and see what the reimagined land of Fillmore and its neighboring lands has in store for us in 2021. Oh yeah, I'm excited for this one. Yeah, I think we're going over the sim segments first. Every new land visited after liberation enters these sim segments. 2 of your believers are summoned to the mortal realm, and you must guide them across the lands to increase the population while destroying terrain, answering prayers, and protecting your civilization from Tanzra's demons by sealing them. Everything is pretty much par for the course, but with a modern twist, such as lands, crops, and factories producing mana and other items, a nifty little charge shot to help defeat stronger enemies quicker, assist in sealing portals by descending into short platforming outlets, and now heroes, each unique to their own continent. While the principle of world building is still fundamentally the same, the new elements such as every 2 humans standing apart from one another, and of course the hero, brings about some new personality into each world, making for some new interesting flair to otherwise the same simple story. With growth upon completing quests, you accumulate faith points, which are used to level up the Master and Angel to better deal with their respective obstacles. Oh, and there are settlement sieges now. Monsters come and raid the lands, and you must use the power of your miracles, your hero, and the many forts and block houses you built to defend your settlement from the siege. Yeah, all that sounds good and interesting, right? Well, there's one thing in this game that makes it all absolutely doo-doo. In the original, the sim sections were by no means perfect, but while they did feel like they went on a lot longer than it typically should, the pace was fast enough to keep you sort of invested, and that says a lot. Here, you need more proof? This is my second playthrough, and it took me nearly 2 hours to beat Fillmore. Longer than that on my first. I could beat at least 3 levels of the original Actraiser in that amount of time. And you think that wouldn't be so bad, but there's a lot of stuff that plays within this one issue. Every end of a time cycle, your inhabitants build their establishments depending on the direction they're guided towards. Eventually, they build farms and workshops to supply you with materials such as mana, apples, resources, etc, etc. That's new and neat, right? Nah, not really, because now that you no longer get mana from ended hourglass periods, you have to rely on farms and enemies to recover your mana, and that's bad for a few reasons. Depending on the quality of your farms, you may occasionally get large mana drops, but more than half the time you'll have to wait your periods out until more spawn. Until then, you're stuck with farms likely to produce mana, and it's apples. It's always apples. The worst part about this system is that the spawn rate plays such a big role in managing your land and defending against sieges. You'll have to wait. See if you get more mana. Don't get any. Wait some more. And then continue waiting until something happens. Wait until you need more materials to take care of the next siege. Use up all your mana. Wait for more mana to spawn. Get more apples. You see the problem here? With enemy spawn portals, demons act as an obstacle by hindering population progress varying between each unique portal. While mana regeneration varies between the tier of each demon, unfortunately they're not much of a threat. They're so easy to dispatch of now since your arrows track enemy movements, and sometimes they just veer off somewhere else as they have better shit to do. It's almost rare to find yourself getting hit since they all follow similar movement patterns, unlike when they were actually a suitable threat. And it's not like health is out of reach. Gonna get a lot of that. Not to mention that their respawn rate is incredibly slow, so when you do eventually dispatch of portals because the story demands it as opposed to just destroying the portal, farming mana can suddenly become scarce when you eventually run out, and then you have to wait. There are a few missions where you have to deal with a bunch of enemies at once and only about a couple lands, but I could just sit back and do this all day. Damn, y'all can at least try to hit me. In a nutshell, quests need to be completed in order to earn faith points level of both your angel and your master to better deal with stages, enemy respawn portals, and sieges. Depending on the severity of the mission, you'll earn a set amount of points, so the demand for more points between each level is always the same. Then you gotta stop, wait for them to blab about something that needs to be done, and then do it. There are a few unique quests that slightly set themselves apart story-wise, Blood Pool being one of my favorites. Meet Teddy. I don't like Teddy. During one of your mini quests in Blood Pool, Teddy wanders off from the village to investigate how the lake was poisoned. Teddy didn't bring any means to defend himself or bring any food, so instead of sending out a search party, they pray and ask for an angel to deliver him some bread. You know, the rules of divine intervention is never consistent, I realize. Anyways, so in the original, you give him the bread, he comes home. Alright, simple enough. Now let's see how they execute it years later. Give him the bread, Teddy! Nah, don't worry, he gets saved. So while we're on the subject concerning that awesome little interaction, let's talk about the story. If you're familiar with the original Actraiser story, you'll be sure to find out that too much has changed aside the new elements and the heroes. As every land shares a similar goal point in liberation and maxing out productivity, they're met with different issues that often result in your help in the form of quests. And then your land's hero introduces themselves, in which case they're involved in settlement sieges. Each individual hero has their own unique arc and personality. Personally, I like Alonzo's arc the most, but it doesn't change the fact that despite there being more story, I really wish there wasn't more story. Lord, I need apples. Lord, I need resources. Lord, we need a bigger population. I already met that condition. I have my own religion set up, which makes me an intellectual. Blah 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 blah. Wait, stop everything. A horde of monsters are coming. Every single time they come to you for a remedial task, it brings the game to a screeching halt. Even if you actively try to keep up with the story everyone tells, they all legitimately follow the same beat.
But wait! There's more!
Settlement Sieges is the new and original bit of action for Renaissance, and definitely the most entertaining part of the sim segments. The point of the game? Protect your environments and prevent this building from falling. Though sometimes the conditions vary, the church is the utmost priority. Thankfully, you have a handful of options to choose from, like using barricades to group together enemies and halt their movement depending on the enemy, and for those pesky aerial enemies that happen to maneuver around your block or mage houses, beckoning bells. The heroes are the most interesting and essential part of every enemy siege. Move them towards enemy positions, they do their thing. They even have their own little unique ultimate attack as well. That's pretty neat. And if you're having problems dealing with swarms of enemies from variable directions, look no further than your forts and allied units. Depending on the level, they can hold back or even deal with hordes of enemies. Despite the obvious differences between each hero, ground is my absolute favorite, don't at me. They all have individual perks that benefit your forts and blockhouses, so any strategy you have in mind all depends on the hero you can summon. All in all, I really do like the settlement raids. They're fun and often can reward you depending on how well you place your hero in defenses. Then it's over with and you're back to this boring shit. Wait, what is that? Wait, fun? Oh my god, finally! Oh yeah, we're finally off to the good stuff. Platforming segments. I'm sure despite literally anything else in this game, this is the high quality meat of Actraiser Renaissance. I suppose I should get the obvious part out the way. Pre-rendered graphics. Now I know this game wasn't made on a huge budget, but come on, we could have done better than this. But to be honest, it could have been worse. The enemy designs and the environments are all still pretty neat. Blood Pool is still one of my favorite stages visually. And the bosses have different patterns and interestingly cool redesigns. But yeah, pre-rendered graphics, they just aren't it. But who cares, right? The platforming still retains some of its classic roots, and while it is simple, it's pretty darn fun. The original Actraiser by today's standards had a bit of limited options, but it was quickly paced, and nothing far out of the way that can't be disposed of with a nicely timed swing. Unlike Actraiser 2, who promised strict platforming action. Does it got good fundamentals? I'll tell you one thing, this game made me understand why fundamentals are important. Meanwhile, the Master is now rocking with the responsive, fresh new control scheme. You got combos, you got this upward strike to deal with monsters who think they got the high ground, you got a slam, an input to dash through enemies when ending a combo, and then you can just put it all together and just be like... You can change your magic anytime you want to, as opposed to being restricted to one per stage. But let's be honest here, we all know that we use Stardust. Too bad it got nerfed, but I got a new favorite now. Only thing that makes this all better is that if the Master had a backdash. Yep, the Master stages are legitimately the best parts of this game, as they should be. Yeah, the pre-rendered graphics make it look a little less flashy, but the controls more than make up for it. Typically, you'd have to sacrifice momentum for more precise and careful platforming, or commit to jumps, which really weren't a problem since the stages were made to benefit the hero's movements, unlike Actraiser 2. But here, everything feels more freeform, so platforming is as responsive as you could imagine. Stages aren't just typical recreations either, as they now have a few optional paths to take to add some replay value to stages, which you can replay as many times as you like, sometimes even involving quests and post-liberation of a land. But you know what? There's something I love more than its original title, and that's the boss fights. Every single fight now has this new gleam of personality to it. They aren't all just restricted to their usual patterns, and now they have other means to throw you off your game. Some are just completely different altogether, like the battle against the Minotaur and the Serpent. The Minotaur isn't stuck in a linear hop and swing axe pattern anymore and has a more brutish demeanor to his attacks, which feels more fitting to me. The Serpent battle is completely different altogether, but to be honest with you, it wasn't really much fun just standing on one platform and swinging your sword. I ended up liking the recreation better. Not gonna lie, I kinda do miss the beam sword though. The only real issue is that compared to the rest of the game, despite having short segments between destroying enemy spawn portals, these stages are over before you know it and you're right back to this. But thankfully there's one thing that makes it all tolerable. Oh hell no, ain't nothing changed here. You should know that this music was an absolute banger back in the day. And with a complete rearrangement, you best believe I'll say that the music is phenomenal. And Fillmore already had godlike music. Now it's godlike music on guitars. And it sounds freaking amazing. But yeah, everyone else loves this song. But for me, the Blood Pool stage will always be my top pick. Not to mention that's not all there is to it. Aside from having complete access to the original soundtrack, they also come complete with new and original chiptunes. Each land that used to contain the track Birth of the People is now only present in the land of Fillmore, as now each level afterwards has their own unique theme complete with a classic variation. Also post-game content. Think of it as a professional mode from the original, but more hands-on. You can select stages, and if you want to test your hand and completely torture yourself, there's a difficulty even harder than hard mode. Also, there's an extra land to look forward to, and I absolutely love it. It's definitely something worth checking out. Trust me, once you're in an appropriate level, all the game's issues kind of fade away from there, and it's actually fun. You know, despite the major flaws that plagued this game, especially at the start, Actraiser Renaissance sort of balances itself out. Is it better than its predecessor? No, not at all. But that doesn't matter. Yeah, there's too much time sunk into the sim segments. It's almost kind of unacceptable. While the core of the game is fine, you're constantly stopped by tutorials, missions, story prompts, apples, your own mana, and lack thereof, and the stupid hourglass. Thankfully it wasn't completely botched. The master stages are absolutely fun. Sure, its pre-rendered graphics look like a Clay Fighters game, but hey, they actually introduced some cool designs, especially with how the bosses look. It's a faithful recreation of an old forgotten classic. And this coming out of left field and being released the same day of its announcement. I never thought something like this would ever see the light of day, and yet, here we are. Actraiser in 2021. That's amazing. Now remake Soul Blazer. So, funny story. So MyNewSoundtrack made this awesome 8-bit remix to Fillmore, and I told him one day that I will make a review and I will use this track, and I will credit him for it, of course. That was 7 years ago. Well, better late than never, I guess, right? I couldn't have done this video without his inspiration, so make sure to go check out his content. It's well worth it. Much love to you, MyNewSoundtrack. You truly are an inspiration.